What if I told you that this fireplace just used to be a plain old boring drywall fireplace insert, straight down here, nothing down at the bottom, just as flat as a Kansas highway? Well, you'd probably rather it look like this. So hang around, come with me. We'll show how to make this baby a faux brick fireplace. It's pretty simple to do. You can do it. Let's attack it. Let's go.
Alright, the first thing we want to do here is put ledger boards up. So this will hold your brick on the wall, keep it from sliding down where you get started at. We have one right above the fireplace and one down here on the ground. That one on the ground is about as thick as thick as one of these tiles. So that'll be my bottom roll down there. Next thing we do is we lay it all out. So I laid everything out, get a little pattern, get it to where I can see where I want to make cuts. So I'm going to just try to go ahead and knock out a bunch of cuts all at once. That way I can just start laying it on here and go. So laid out the bottom and the top. And then as you can see here, I have a little mark right here. I measure out with my dowel rod my spacing between each one, and then I put a little mark, a little niche in here where we're going to want to cut. And I'll do that for each way that I laid the brick. There's going to be 2 different rows of brick laid repeatedly. So I'm going to make all these cuts, knock it out. Alright, so all cuts are made to really get most of this done here, and I have this piled up and each one is a different row with different cuts. So now we just start laying, and we'll start here laying on top of this ledger board here and get our spacing all figured out. So what I chose to do is back butter most of these. So I'm just throwing a little back butter here, and each corner, I'm going to start on the corner on each row that I do, and it will be a long piece facing the front here on the corner. The next time will be a shorter, so it's just flipping that corner piece is all. So and then you'll see I back butter a couple of them, put them on there, and then I'm going to flip to the other corner, put that on, and then I'm going to meet them all up in the middle. And towards the middle is going to be where my cut piece is. This just keeps it aesthetically pleasing to where you don't really even notice the cut piece. So whenever this is all done, that cut piece will be in the middle and it just kind of blends in and flows. So I'm going to do the front and each side, put these on top of the ledger board, try to make sure everything's nice and level, and then we're going to do a couple rows on this first day, let it dry before we pull that ledger board. So I used dowel rods, and it was about 1/2 inch space dowel rods. Don't like the dowel rods. I did not think that it worked real well. It'd be so much better if you just find a no sagging thin set. Just because, as you can see on that piece on the right front there, you can kind of get off level if you're not careful. So I had to really pay attention and really finagle with the dowel rods. As you can tell on this second row on the corners, I have flipped that corner piece to where the long side is on the side. So once we got a few rows done, we let it dry overnight. Now we'll pull off these ledger boards. As you can start to see here, 4 rows up, we're basically doing 2 different rows. One will be, the corner pieces will be long, and then the row on top of that, the corner pieces will be short. And then you just repeat that. So that's all it is just 2 different rows all the way up. That's why I did the cuts to start out, because there are very few cuts to have different cuts to have to deal with, because you're just doing 2 rows repeated over and over again. And then after I got that ledger board off down here in the bottom, I went ahead and finished up this whole bottom section. So we knocked down that bottom row. Like I said, I had that ledger board measured to the thickness plus spacing of a whole bottom row. That way I could just put solid pieces down there and be done with it. So Here we are again. We go back up top, and all we're going to do is keep flowing this thing up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to flow it up, and then I'm going to come back down the sides of the fireplace while that dries. So we'll flow it up a few rows, as many as we can, keeping it level with the dowel rods. When they eventually start irritating me and they get unlevel, then I'm going to let them sit, and I'm going to come back down on the sides of the fireplace. And this is just my way of doing it. I was in no rush to do this. If I had to go back and do it again, I just choose probably something different than dowel rods, just because this textured brick is hard to get it to lay flush how you want it to. With the spacing that we used, you don't really notice if a piece is really a little bit crooked or anything. It just makes it look more antique and authentic. So it all ends up looking fantastic either way you go. So now, as you can see, we're hitting down the sides of the fireplace here. Really simple. It was really quick and really easy to hit the sides of the fireplace. I made the thin set really thick. That way this stuff would not slide much on me. So I could go down a few rows, and then I'll end up taping them off to really kind of help pull them up a little bit. So after I got down all but about one row or so, I didn't want to go down any further because I still got to put my my hearth seat there. So I wanted to leave at least a solid row there. Now as we go up top here, we're going to look at some cuts that you have to make if you have to go around any lights or anything like that. I just dry fit these things up here, and I marked on my brick where it is that I wanted to cut. So they were very easy to cut, really easy. Just put them up next to it, mark pretty close, and keep in mind that you're going to grout over them, so if they're not perfectly snug, it will be okay. And then we just keep piling it up. We keep going all the way up this wall. One last thing on the down by the fireplace where I was taping that up, to keep the bricks from sagging down, since I was not using a dowel rod down there. Alright, so after we got this baby all bricked up, now it's time to caulk. So what we use here is a caulking bag, and you just cut the tip of it there. You drop, a grout. We're using a grouting bag. Use the right words, Brian. And you cut the tip of it off, and we're just going to squeeze it into these gaps. I say these are about 5/8" gaps, so they're pretty wide. And so we used quite a bit of grout, but it gives it a really good, authentic masonry look to it. So this is like you're not only becoming a tiler, but you're becoming a masoner. So it's a very simple process. You just squeeze all the grout into there to fill it up a little bit. I've recessed these. I do not have them flush with the brick. I have the brick sticking out a little bit, kind of. So I will show you another view here to kind of let you see exactly how it looks like whenever you squeeze it in right before we kind of manipulate it to where it looks authentic. Alright, so this is what it looks like when we just push it all in, as you can see in the bottom. And at the top there is what it looks like after we manipulate it. And what I do is I use end of a paintbrush and my finger to manipulate this and really push this into the in between the bricks there. So the key is that you want to wait until this stuff dries up some, 15, 20, 30 minutes. Let it dry up to where it gets kind of tacky to the touch. It feels like Play-Doh. It doesn't come off on your finger. And then we will finish up the touches by taking this paintbrush. End of the paintbrush is what I used. And we will push it in between anything that falls out, anything that doesn't get completely flushed up with the brick, any gaps or anything like that. I will use my finger and just push in to really make it adhere and attach to the bricks. this paintbrush also gives it kind of a, to where it moons in, if you will, kind of dimples in. It just gives it a real good, authentic, old school masonry brick look. So we'll keep going through with this and just continue this process. It's a time-consuming one. It's pretty tedious, but it really is rewarding as you go through it because it makes it look really good. So just ensure that this stuff is dried a little bit to where it doesn't come off on your finger and to where you can actually manipulate it. And then that's the key with this part, because once you do that, yeah, some will crumble, yeah, it'll get a little messy, but it'll look real good and it'll clean up easy. Alright, so once we have gotten that looking how we want, we're going to take just a little brush. I have just a little workshop kind of brush, and we're just going to brush over all the brick and all the lines here, and this just kind of knocks off anything that's kind of sticking out, maybe any grout that kind of got on the brick. It just helps smooth out and give it kind of a buttery finish, if you will. A little feathers it out. So you'll see probably on the screen some of it getting knocked off. This is a pretty good look at what the finished product looks like. I mean, it's kind of recessed in. Looks beautiful in my opinion. So we will finish going down the sides. We'll do the bottom section. We're just going to do all of it. Same old look. And then we'll be ready for the last step. Whoops, got a little ahead of myself. Before we move on to the last step of sealing, I had to throw this last layer down, last row of brick down here. As you can see, I got my concrete hearth kind of bench seat in here. I'll have another video up on how to make one of these bad boys. It costs about $100 and pretty quick and easy. And so I'll have a video up on how to do that in the near future if you want to check that one out. But we'll do this last row of laying the tile or brick and grouting and then move on to the sealing. Now for the last step, we're going to use some 511, not impregnator, but impregnator, something like that. And this is just going to seal it up. This is very porous brick, and if you didn't do this, then it would get dirty and it would stain pretty easily. Definitely if you're with ashes or stuff when you're using a fire. So very easy to use. Just shake it up, pour it in a cup, throw it on a paintbrush, and drop it on there generously, and it does a really well job. It does not change the color or anything like that. It just does its deal. So this is a very crucial step. Do it, do it, do it. All right, and there you have it. So those are your steps on how to get this final look here. I'm also going to have some videos coming up of the mantle here. It's just a hollow wood mantle, pretty cheap, easy to do. We'll also have one of the concrete hearth down here. Again, cheap, pretty easy to do. So if you're looking for a look like this or just want to stick around and watch some videos, we will continue to move forward on this. Just subscribe and like, and check out some more of them if you want. If not, thanks for watching. Thanks for following through on this forever home that keeps on getting built, and more to where how we like it. See you soon.